Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Recently, I played an interesting game of the Englund Gambit where we played the reverse French variation. And in this game, I managed to get a connect 5 pawns down a diagonal. Let's go take a look. Okay, so my opponent played 1d4, Englund Gambit, immediate e5. Now, one of the really good things with Englund Gambit is that if the opponent doesn't accept the gambit, it's automatically good for black. And more than that, it often takes the game down some unusual and weird lines where the queen's pawn opening player may be expecting to play something like the London or the Queen's Gambit. Often they're not familiar with these lines either, and so they don't get the advantage of forcing an opening, and we end up just having a battle of chess. So in this game, my opponent decided to decline the gambit with e3, and this is the reversed French variation. So I wasn't really sure what to do. I pushed my pawn forward, and this was a relative inaccuracy, but it's kind of okay because I doubt my opponent with the white pieces knows what to do either. They play a knight, which is a mistake, automatically back to minus 0.3, and here I decided to push a pawn, consolidating the center, and you can start to see this is kind of looking like the French in that white is a little bit cramped for space while I have a potential space advantage. Knight, and I play another knight as well, and you can see that Stockfish from the very beginning wants me to form this chain of pawns, and this will become a bit of a theme in this game actually, and I don't form this chain of pawns for quite a while, and Stockfish will remind me a few times that this was actually the best move. They develop their other knight, push the knight forward, and you can see a relative inaccuracy, so about a minus 0.7. I push a pawn, attacking the knight. They sort of having to move the knight a second time. I develop my other knight to defend. I was hoping that they will takes, and I was actually pretty happy actually with this transformation, though Stockfish rates this at the moment as reasonably equal. They develop a piece, and again, interesting, that was a inaccuracy to about minus 0.9. I now develop my other bishop, ostensibly trying to pin their knight to the king. This doesn't really work, and you can see Stockfish thinks that that would have been the better move, forming that chain, that diagonal chain of pawns. And part of the reason why this isn't good is that they can develop their knight, and basically this bishop is kind of misplaced. So here I push another pawn thinking to take more space, and you will see that this was considered a mistake like Stockfish. However, the opponent doesn't see what they had to do. They castle, makes a lot of sense, and we are back basically to equality. Black slightly ahead. What should I have done? Now with this complex, and again the reason why that bishop move was not so good is that potentially they could have played this move. The knight captures this pawn, and now they've got 2 attacks, and basically I end up losing a piece in that transformation, which is why that was a mistake. However, my opponent didn't see that move. They castle. I bring my rook, to potentially to that G file. Stockfish didn't like that. 1.5 to white. However, you can see, we're back to equality. These are somewhat unorthodox, slightly tricky positions to play. Now I bring my bishop back. Opponent sort of tries to move a queen. Again, black is back ahead, a bit ahead. I sort of lose some of that advantage. Now, given that my king is still in the center and I've already moved my rook, my idea was to start throwing these pawns at the king. So that was my idea. Now, Stockfish didn't think that that was the most accurate move, but I thought that was potentially an okay strategy. And in fact, it induced my opponent with the white pieces to push their g-pawn, permanently weakening some of the light squares around their king. And you will see Stockfish really didn't like it. On the lower depth, minus 2.2, but at higher depth, almost minus 3. This weakening of the defense of the king is, in fact, quite bad. I now finally see, making that line of pawns, and effectively you can start to see these pawns chop the field in half. Most of my opponent's pieces are on the queen side, which basically removes some of the defense around their king, especially with that pawn move. They try to counterattack down the queen side, and you can see Stockfish considers this an error. Almost minus 5 actually on higher depth. Basically, this counterattack's just not fast enough compared to this attack that I have on the king side. So I was going to move this this knight to bring it in as part of the attack. So that was potentially a good move. So threatening my chain of pawns doesn't matter. I thought that wasn't fast enough compared to this attack I had on their king. So again, too slow, which is why Stockfish keeps thinking this is an error, and it slides further and further towards my advantage. At high depth now, it's almost minus 7.5. Now, I start to chomp away at the king's defenses. Takes. They try to take back. Knight forward. So the knight is going to jump forward. Again, they're still trying to push the queen side. That is just not doing anything in terms of the defense of their king. My king has not castled on this side, so even if these pawns came here, the threat is not direct. Knight jumps forward. They have to take, and they take back, and there we go. The connect 5. These pawns really now divide the whole field in two. You will notice that almost all of my opponent's pieces are on this side of the palisade. My pieces are on this side of the palisade, and so is their king. So this is a very problematic position for white. They push again. Here you can see Stockfish was not afraid. Recommends going for the attack. I decided I didn't calculate it well. I thought, look, maybe there is a problem here. So I decided to push that pawn to try to close that off. They take. I thought that was fine. Now bishop, threatening that rook. They push forward. You can see Stockfish thinks it's a mistake. Beginning of the end, mate in 10. Now a brilliant sacrifice. The bishop now destroys that last pawn here, because after takes, there is now no pawns defending the king. The only defender really is potentially that rook. Every other piece is on the wrong side. So king tries to valiantly move out of the way. I now bring the queen around as well. Their rook tries to do one final defense. And here I take, and it's a mate in 3. Now, there was actually a slightly faster mate, which I didn't see. So the faster line would have been playing a bishop here, and then king forced to move out of the way, move out of check. The rook now takes, defended by that last pawn along that chain. King moves, and then that's mate. So that was the fastest checkmate, but I didn't see that. Instead, I moved the bishop here with check, king forced to move, and now queen, check, king moves over here, forced to move, and here I've moved my queen in this position. This is potentially where it slows things down just a little bit. I'm not entirely sure of the logic here. Maybe they thought that the king had some space to move, but bishop out of the way, check, forced to move, and mate. Good game, GG. The main takeaway from this game is to consider playing the Englund Gambit against 1d4. You don't have to take it down one of the trap lines for it to be effective. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.